welcome to the final episode. Our last time recording PauseCast. Wow, that feels fucking weird to say. Hello, Mark.
Hey, how you going?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. A bit colder than
Good.
I'd like.
My name is Jessica. As always, joining you here. I use she, her pronouns.
And I'm Mark Hanna. I use he, him.
Wow, last episode. What the hell? How did this happen? How are we here doing this?
Well, I'm more amazed that we got to 100, actually. Because this is also episode 100.
Yeah. I mean, I have a little secret to reveal to you. I miscounted. I'm so sorry. It's 99.
Oh, no!
There's technically a bonus episode or two, I think, so it's technically 100 if you really think about it.
Well, if there's two, then it's technically 101. Anyway,
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine. Don't worry about it. We made it this far, and that's kind of what counts. So, I guess without further ado, we should just, get right into it. For the final time, Mark, what have you been playing recently?
So, I have been playing Anthem, which I think came out since we last recorded.
Yes.
I've jumped back into a couple of old games. I've jumped back into Starbound, and I've jumped back into Horizon Zero Dawn. And I picked up another new game that's released since we last recorded, which is Pathway, which I've played just a little bit of because it only came out on Thursday evening.
Okay.
How about you?
Recently, I have been playing Apex Legends, continuing to play that pretty regularly. Donut County, which is a really cute, small indie game that I'm going to talk about, that I did complete. Project Cars 2, and Formula 1 2016. I also played another really small game that I want to talk about for a second, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
So this last month's Humble Monthly Bundle, I ended up picking it up because I saw a game that was being included as the month's original game that it really struck me just kind of instantly. It's called A Short Hike.
Okay.
It's really interesting how they've done the art style. So the way that they've done the art style is they're using low poly 3D models behind the scenes and then kind of dynamically converting them into pixel art using shaders and stuff in Unity. It's a really cool art style. I'm going to send you a screenshot, and I'm also going to link that in the show notes so people can see what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah, it's really, really neat how this style has been executed here. Because if you didn't know any better, you would think that this is a fully pixel art game. They've gone and hand animated these sprites and stuff.
Yeah, from looking at the screenshots after how you described it, I can definitely see that what you described.
Yeah, it's a really neat trick. I really like the way that this has been done though. So it's an exploration game. It's really short and sweet. There's lots of characters and stuff to talk to as you go on your hike. There's lots of different unique bits of scenery. There are a couple of secrets that you can find out about. And so I had a really good time with this. It's not out more broadly until a little bit later this year.
Okay.
Summer, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, is how it's currently listed.
So winter for us Southerners.
Yeah, winter for us. It'll be available on Steam and a few other places, but it was this month's original game in the monthly bundle, and it was so nice. And I streamed it for a little bit as well.
Nice.
And the developer actually came and watched.
Oh, cool.
Had a quick chat, and we talked about some of the secrets and stuff that I was finding, and yeah.
That's really cool that to be able to have them in there while you're streaming it.
Yeah, it was a really, really special experience. And I'm gonna have a chat with them in the future. Actually, doing an interview with them.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's something to look forward to.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's my little game that I've played. you have a big thing that you want to get into. So why don't you tell me more about how you've been playing Anthem?
Right, so I think we'd talked about this prior to release, right, where we'd played the demo, and the demo was not a good demo, but I think I said I decided I was going to get it because I wanted to play robot dress ups.
Yeah,
So I
absolutely.
did. I got it on release. I was really glad you had explained to me earlier about a different game how you'd be able to play co-op with one purchase by having the right primary PlayStation so that it can be installed on a different profile, and then
Yeah.
on a different PlayStation on your own profile you can play it. So was able to play it with my flatmate without him having to buy it as well. So that was really nice. It meant I wasn't playing it on my own.
Yeah.
Um, as expected, I've very much enjoyed dressing up a robot suit. Unfortunately, the way you unlock cosmetic items is really not my favorite. It's basically they have a featured store, which is like the 6 items you can currently purchase that rotates every 3 days or so. So if there's nothing good in there, which happens a lot, it's a while before another chance for there to be something good in there. And the actual new pieces of armor, cosmetic armor you can only buy the full set, and it costs enough in-game currency that you have to be really, really selective as to which ones you decide to get. So that's been frustrating. I'm not going to do microtransactions because I hate them. So sure, it's an option, but I'm not going to do it.
Hmm.
But sometimes the feature store will just be like emotes, which I really couldn't care any less about, and like maybe an armor set for a class I don't use, or what they call graphics, which is just like or do they call them vinyls? I can't remember, but it's just like um, I suppose a vinyl.
Yeah.
Most of them are pretty lackluster, I've found, but that's all right. So I've got 2 cosmetic armor sets that I've bought for my favorite class. If you want to customize more than one class, I guess you kind of have to either play a lot for a long time to earn enough in-game currency, or just do microtransactions. So like I said, I'm not really happy with how they've costed all those, because it looks like, from what I can tell, in terms of how you can actually sustainably earn this in-game currency, you'd have to play for weeks and weeks in order to earn enough just based off that to get enough to get a cosmetic armor set. Whereas you unlock a bunch as you, like, the first time you complete this story mission kind of thing. So as you're playing through the game, you'll unlock a bunch, but once you're in the end game, it really slows to a trickle. And I'm in the end game now, so I've had to be really selective. And if a cool new armor set came up in the next round, I wouldn't be able to get it. So that's been a bit of a bummer, but I do at least have a really cool looking robot suit right now, so that's the flip side of it. In terms of the non-dress ups part of the game, combat's pretty fun. Flying around is definitely a lot of fun. I can't really compare it to Destiny because I haven't really played Destiny. I know that's sort of the most similar game to it, but it does remind me a lot of the combat in Mass Effect multiplayer, both from Mass Effect 3 and from Andromeda. Part of that will just be because it's BioWare, but they've got like shields and armor on the enemies. They use the same actual color coding for it as in Mass Effect. It's got the similar kind of feeling with the balance between weaponry and abilities. Although obviously the flying is a new aspect to it. The class I prefer is called the Storm, and they hover a lot, so I'm often up in the air, which has not happened when I'm playing Mass Effect multiplayer.
Yeah, no, that's a lot more grounded almost, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you can jump onto another platform, but there's no flying in Mass Effect. One thing that I'm kind of disappointed they seem to have forgotten from the good stuff in Mass Effect multiplayer is that you don't get anything from completing objectives. Like, if you're doing a mission together and one person focuses on killing the enemies while another person does the objective, which is like, might be picking up items to reassemble them back at a certain area,
Mm-hmm.
they don't get any like experience reward for focusing on that, which seemed weird, because you did if you focused on an objective in Mass Effect multiplayer. So I don't know why they don't have that in there now.
Yeah, that seems not great.
Yeah. Although now that I'm at the end game, it doesn't matter anyway because experience has become literally meaningless once you hit max level. It doesn't get
Yeah.
like converted into currency or anything, which would be really nice if it did.
Wait, so okay, so the way that Destiny does like max level stuff, right? You still
Hmm.
continue to gain experience, and when you reach a new level, quote unquote, um, you get a package of cosmetic items.
That would
Is
be really nice.
Yeah, is that not what happens in Anthem at all? Like it's like silent combat basically doesn't matter anymore?
Yeah, so like it'll tell you how much experience you would have gotten if you weren't max level, but you don't get it because you're already max level. There's nowhere for
Hey,
it to
what the
go.
fuck?
Yeah,
Like
so that's kind of a bummer at the end game.
even like the Division does that. Like you can get a pack of cosmetic items and stuff once you're max level. You can get other stuff using your XP.
I've
That
seen they
Anthem
have.
doesn't do that. It seems kind of like
Yeah,
busted progression.
yeah, it's annoying. I've seen they had mentioned prior to release. I think after the demo that they were aware. Oh no, sorry, it was in the like the early access bit where some people could play and some couldn't. I saw that they acknowledged that and said they were thinking of what to do about it, but I've heard nothing since then. So hopefully, eventually, it will turn into currency or cosmetic items or something. But right now, it's just max level experience tops mattering, so you don't have to care as much.
That's a really lame way to handle that, honestly.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. So that's a disappointing note on it.
I think like Anthem is in a position where they could have and should have learned a lot of lessons from, you know, like every competitor in the space.
Yeah, I was talking to my brother about it, who's played a lot of Destiny, and just about every mistake I brought up, he mentioned how Destiny had made that mistake originally and then fixed it. And I don't understand why BioWare hasn't learned from those mistakes.
Well, I mean, let's talk about how there was a big report from Kotaku that went up very recently, in fact, I think within the past week, um, talking about how the game that Anthem is now basically only came to be in the last like 18 months or so. Um, that is a crazy, crazy thing because that game had been in development since Mass Effect Andromeda and like Dragon Age Inquisition were just coming out. Anthem has been in development since then, and so the fact that it had gone through that much development and then it ran into troubles and their vision was unclear as to what the game was, and it only really came together in the past year and a half. It makes sense that those mistakes were made, but they still shouldn't have been. Like it needed some more time in the oven, from what I understand.
Yeah, I could sympathize with that. They have fixed a bunch of stuff since the game came out.
Yeah,
They've
sure.
like improved the loading screen issue, so now if you want to go into modify your appearance or loadout, you don't have to go through a loading screen to get there like you did originally. They've made a bunch of little improvements, but some stuff like that, I'm still looking for how they're going to address it because I think they're aware that other things are problems that will need to be addressed at some point. I know that they're going to be releasing free new content as time goes on. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what they'll do with that. They
Mm.
definitely teased it very heavily at the end of the story, what some of it is going to be, which, I'd seen coming from before that point anyway. But still, that will be nice when that happens. For the moment, I basically, sometimes I'll jump on and see what the daily challenges are, and I might do one or two. They've introduced one new neat way of unlocking some cosmetic things, where each day one of your daily challenges gives you an item which you can use to unlock a chest at the end of a stronghold, and if you do that, you can get a cosmetic item from there. Except the only cosmetic items you can get are the ones that I don't care about, so it's not that great an incentive. You can only get animations and vinyls. You can't get the actual materials or cosmetic armor pieces, which are the only ones I really want. So it's
Mm.
a little incentive, but it's not quite enough for me to play it every day or anything like that. So I think I haven't played it in maybe around a week or so, but when I do, like, I do enjoy it. It's fun flying around fighting things. I've found in endgame they actually start getting a difficulty system kind of like Diablo's, where it's not you choose a difficulty for how much challenge you want. It's more you choose a difficulty for how good your gear is. So I'm up to, I think they call it Grandmaster 2, which basically means I've got masterwork gear in all my item slots pretty much.
Yeah.
Because if I
That
go below
definitely
that, everything melts and I don't get hurt. And if I go
definitely
above
reminds
that,
me of
it's the other way
Diablo.
around. Yeah, yeah. So there's that at least has still been some feeling of progression.
Mhm.
The only way up to go from here is get more better gear. And so the in-game gear, there's masterwork stuff, and then above that is legendary stuff. And in the in-game that I've played, I don't know how many hours, maybe like 8, I guess, I've got 2 legendary item drops. So if I want to get a lot of them, that is a lot of grinding just to hope for random drops. So I just haven't felt a huge amount of incentive for it lately. So I think I'm probably most likely to go back once they've got new content. Because at the moment, the most I might do is check what's in the store and then realize I can't afford it.
Okay, so Destiny has light level, right?
Yeah.
Division has gear score. Does
Yes.
does Anthem have any sort of equivalent system?
Oh yeah, you do get an overall score for all your gear. I think it's just the sum of all the points of your pieces of gear.
Okay, so there is something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
and it gives recommendations for like each of the in-game difficulties. You should have a javelin level of 525 before you try this kind of thing.
So is that Anthem? Any thoughts on where it goes from here? I guess.
I mean, I think the new content is probably going to be the next big thing for it. I don't know what other general improvements they have in mind. I would definitely like to see in-game experience go somewhere, and I'd definitely like to see it be possible to earn more in-game currency without a huge grind. Currently, basically the only renewable way to do it is daily and weekly and monthly challenges, which obviously have a time gating, and they've got this alliance points thing, which is just at the end of every week you get a payout depending on how much you and your friends played. So there's kind of a maximum speed at which you can earn this stuff, which seems like it's just kind of a pain because also it's really slow. Like compared with how much you get as you're leveling up and unlocking all the challenges of like explore all the areas in this region and do this mission for the first time and kill 50 enemies with this rifle. You only get these things once and you get a reasonable payout of what they call coin, which I think is a terrible name for a currency, but that's fine. But then once you hit the end game, you don't get anything like that. You might be able to get 1,000 in a day if you do all your daily challenges, which can take like an hour and a half. So I don't know. I just have felt less incentive to play now that I'm at the end game and I have a good loadout that's going to be hard to improve. So new content, I think, is what's going to draw me back.
Yeah, especially if it's like new narrative content, like it seems to they seem to be implying it is going to be like free new narrative content. Great.
Yeah, that's my expectation. I just don't know how soon there's going to be a lot of it.
Yeah.
But it's fun, and sometimes if me and my flatmate are both in the mood, we'll just play some because it's still fun to play.
Yeah. I'm glad that you are having fun with it. I'm looking forward to seeing where that game is in like 6 months.
Yeah.
Still.
That's fair.
I think Fallout 76 is kind of looking that same way as well, but I don't think I'm ever going to pick that one up.
Yeah, Fallout 76 is not my sort of game.
Nope. Well, I've got a brief one that I'm going to touch on here.
Okay.
Coming off of Anthem, we'll talk about another EA game, maybe 2 here really quickly. Apex Legends, I want to talk about just in brief. So as I've been going with Apex, I have been getting more wins, getting better at aiming and playing in general, and in this process of this, a friend of mine has helped me really realize the importance of doing one really small thing that's had a really big impact, which was tuning my sensitivity. You mentioned to me off recording that you don't really customize your controls and stuff like that, do you?
Yeah, every time I see that, like, adjust your sensitivity thing, I always wonder, how do people know what's the right sensitivity? All I could see is like if my mouse is really sluggish, I'll turn it way up. But I won't know how much to turn it up. I'll just do it until it feels about right. But
Yeah,
you've
so
been tuning it way more finely than that, haven't you?
yeah. The way that you do that is actually just recording yourself and watching yourself play a little bit. And as you like get into engagements, slow things down and see, oh, am I aiming too far or am I aiming too little? Like, am I moving just that little bit too slow or am I going just over the target and missing that way? And adjust your sensitivity from there. So, in my case, I was doing a lot of over aim. I was aiming too far and adjusting too much. So I was lowering my sensitivity little bit by bit, and I've gotten it to a place where I can effectively fire most weapons like a laser. Um, yeah, that sensitivity adjustment was really really key, and that sort of thing is carried over from Apex to Rainbow Six to every game that I've been playing. I've been like making those subtle tweaks, and it's really been helping.
Nice. I think perhaps the fact that I don't play competitive shooters probably means there's less reason for me to look at it in that much detail. Is maybe part of why I don't tune it so much.
Yeah, you can be a little bit more loose because you can afford to be.
Yeah.
Having a quick sip of my drink there.
All good. So just remind me real quick: is Apex Legends? I forget. Is it like Overwatch or is it like PUBG?
It's kind of like Overwatch in that it has characters, and those characters have abilities that are specific to them. But it is a PUBG.
Okay.
Um, the control adjustment stuff is carried over to like Project Cars 2, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit more depth here in a second. But that game has a lot of controls for things like your wheel sensitivity and the dead zone on your controller, which is like, oh, at what point do we actually start accepting input, and at what
Mm-hmm.
point are you just like, is it a kind of margin of error? So I've been adjusting things like that, so that my controls aren't quite as finicky, and it's really taken the whole game down from being like, oh, I felt like that game was super squirrely, but now I feel like this is precisely in my control.
Oh, nice. I feel like
Yeah,
I'd see that many sliders and just get overwhelmed really quickly.
it's kind of easy to think about them in like pairs of three. There's three controls for each kind of like component, like steering and throttle and brakes are the main three there. So it's
Mm-hmm.
9 sliders. And you really just think about them at like all three as one group controlling all three, and you kind of make your minor adjustments. So I think my dead zone, for example, is like 15% on the steering. So I need to put my controller, like put the left stick over more than 15% for it to start accepting input, and that lets me have some really really fine grained control still, while
So
also making it less prone to very very minor tweaks.
is 15% like is that high or lower than the default?
The default is 0, so
Oh,
higher.
okay. Okay.
Uh, by default, if you do any input whatsoever, then it'll just go,
Right.
and that's what made it super squirrely.
That's interesting. I would have thought that in general more control makes it easier to control.
Not at all, because when you think about a racing game,
Mm-hmm.
you
As I do all
tend
the time.
yeah. I know you don't normally do that,
It's alright.
but when you're
Yep.
playing a racing game,
Mm-hmm.
you're not always like jamming the stick over to the left or right to make turns. There are lots of small turns on a course, so you make small inputs,
Mm-hmm.
or you like gradually move your stick over so that you are making a more like gradual turn. Um, because of that, you don't want it to go like right away because as you just hold the controller, you could very easily like nudge yourself left a little bit or right a little bit, just like a couple percentage points, and that would be seen as input. So this gives you like, oh, you have to put it over a certain amount, and that's the threshold at which it'll start accepting things. You make yourself less prone to mistakes that way.
Okay, right. That makes more sense.
Yeah, it is a much better way to go about that. So shall I talk in depth more about the non-controlled aspect of this?
Yeah.
Great. So a big part of the reason I was playing Project Cars was I did an endurance race and stream to support victims of the Christchurch shooting, because that was an event that happened while we were not recording. For those unfamiliar with the events, I believe that was on March 15th, almost a month ago at this point. A shooter who was a white supremacist opened fire in 2 mosques in the city of Christchurch, killing 50 people in the worst mass shooting event in the history of this country. I think we can pretty firmly say.
I think it's the worst in recent history. I don't know if it's the worst in all history. Remember New Zealand's colonial history.
Yeah, that's true. Certainly in recent history, certainly within my lifetime, it was, it was a devastating attack. So I did a charity event to try and raise money for the victims. We ended up raising about 420 USD, which is and about 440 after a couple other donations after the time came through. After a little bit of cooldown, rather, sorry. Just to let people get in any last-minute donations. We had a couple of really cool guests on. So we had City Skylines and urban planning YouTuber Do Not Eat, for example. He's done a couple of really, really great series. One called Franklin and one called Power Planning and Politics, in which he uses city skylines to talk about real urban planning decisions. Really cool series. Highly recommend going to check those out. Yeah, we had a lot of practice and setup going into that because it's an endurance event, so it was 6 hours on one course, which is just a quarter of the real event, which is a 24-hour endurance race. We got to experiment with swapping out for an AI driver, which would let me, take bathroom breaks and, have a little bit of respite.
I was wondering how you were going to manage that.
Yeah,
AI driver, right? That makes sense.
Yeah, so when I needed to have a break and I needed to have a couple during the race, I would pull into the pits.
Hours,
yeah, and if it was 24 hours, there would be no way around that. But even during the 6 hours, I needed a couple breaks.
Right.
So you'd pull into the pits, and I can make a call to swap out the driver there, and just replaces me with an AI driver.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a really cool feature, especially for those endurance events, because you can actually have that AI driver go for as long as you'd like.
How do you swap back? Do they have to pull into the pit again?
Yes, so they'll have to pull into the pit again, and you can make the call to swap. So you can force them into the pit at any time.
Yeah. That's what I was going to wonder.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask.
Actual event involved like a lot of pit stops and stuff due to some damage and some reckless AI. And,
It was the AI that was reckless.
It was the AI that was reckless. I got like rammed from behind several times.
Yeesh. Driving too slow.
No. There was a disqualification at one point, which was kind of rough, especially since it was like 4 hours in, and there's no flashbacks or anything that I can just rewind and un-DQ myself.
How did you get disqualified?
So there is a rule to keep everyone in the pit lane safe, that there is a speed limit within the pit lane. And so before you enter the pit lane proper, you are expected to brake to that speed, which is 60 kilometers per hour, At that point, you can then switch on the pit limiter, and you will remain at that speed even if you go full throttle.
Right.
This keeps everyone on the course safe in real life. This is how you would do it in real life as well. If you go into the pit lane too fast, you can receive penalties. And after you do that a couple of times, you will actually be disqualified. At the time I was disqualified, I would have to check the speedo on the stream at some point, but the point when I was disqualified, I was like at 63 kilometers an hour, and that was, totally within margin of human error. A human referee would probably not have penalized me for that, but the robots do. So that was fun.
But it wasn't the end of it, right?
No, we just restarted from that point. We looked at how much time there was left in the session, and I just set up another session to that point.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, not a huge deal, since the focus was on like charity and the actual endurance of the thing, rather than me finishing first or doing particularly well. Yeah. It was inspired by a new Netflix documentary series that came out called Formula One: Drive to Survive, which it covered the 2018 F1 series. For all that I'm super into motorsport, F1 wasn't something I'd really broached. I was kind of like hanging around GT events, a little bit lower powered, a little bit less spectacle. And so it was a really interesting insight into how F1 kind of operated, what the politics of the sport were, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, just as much as like the actual racing action. It's got me following the current F1 series. Like the Chinese Grand Prix is happening tonight, and I'm here excited about like kind of watching from the sidelines and seeing how it happens. I've got drivers that I am wanting to support. Like Daniel Ricciardo. Shout out to Daniel Ricciardo. Dude seems so nice. Like, he's just very, very happy in general. If you look at a photo of him and he is not smiling, they've caught him just at a really, really bad time. Yeah, I actually ended up doing that endurance race with Formula vehicles. They're high speed. The vehicles normally used on that track proved really difficult to handle, or they had like AI issues where the AI would like effectively cheat. It's kind of wild.
How would it cheat?
How would they cheat? So in real life, in real life and in the game as well, there is a system on those vehicles, which is a like hybrid engine system.
Okay.
It charges up as your engine goes, and then you can activate the hybrid system at any point to get a little
Make it a
speed
flying
boost
car.
on these big straightaways. You get a speed boost. The way that Project Cars 2 handles this is fully automatic, where drivers in real life have manual control over this. So because it's fully automatic, if you are going at even vaguely close to full throttle, you are burning that system. And because there's substantial sections of the track which are not which do let you go full throttle prior, you end up burning that system in a way that IRL drivers would never do. So the AI does it in such a way that they manipulate that system to actually, get that system fully charged and be able to use it on those straights, where you as a human driver can't really do that as easily.
So there's no way to switch it over to manual.
No, as far as I'm aware, it's like specific to this class of vehicle. It was a bummer when I was testing that out, just to see. But the Formula class vehicles ended up proving to be a much better fit in the end. It was an interesting race. I didn't completely destroy my fingers in the process, so counting that as a win.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's my big thing on Project Cars.
Nice.
Yeah. You want to go to space?
I mean, that's just generally true. In non-space stuff, there's been a game that I've had my eye on for not that long, because I only got reminded about it just recently, having first seen it ages ago, which is another Chucklefish published game called Pathway, which came out last week. And when I was mentioning it to a friend, she mentioned Starbound, and I ended up jumping back into Starbound for the 20th time. I think I've played 11 hours of it since I jumped back in. I'm now up to, I think, 277 hours on Steam on Starbound. It's by far the game I've played the most of. I'm constantly amazed by how much I can enjoy the game after coming back to it, even though I've already played so much.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been fun, but Pathway as well came out. So like I said, it's a Chucklefish published game, which already makes it a pretty good bet that I was going to like it. It's a pixel art game that is it's supposed to be like a generated Indiana Jones type adventure, where you pick one of several scenarios or parts of a campaign that unlock as you complete the previous one. And during each scenario, you're going from node to node on a map, using up fuel very much like FTL.
Mm-hmm.
And then at each node, there's an event, and some of the events are combat, and it's got a tactics system that's fairly simple and quite fast-paced. These matches don't take like XCOM length. They tend to, like, a long one is 7 minutes. And there tends to be like 3 to 6 enemies. And so far in what I've played, I've only had 2 characters at once, but I know you can get up to 4 at once. And it's been a lot of fun. It's interesting how it's kind of like a roguelite-like setup from how I've seen it described, which is basically means in this case, whether you win or lose, at the end you keep experience and money and items that you've found. So you might have found a better gun during this round, but then you lost. But you can still use that better gun from the start next time. So, the first few times I tried the easiest campaign, I lost pretty quickly. Part of that is just getting used to the tactics system. It's interesting how characters can move a lot further compared with the range of their weapons compared with XCOM, so I'd quite often get caught out where I'd be easily flanked by enemies.
Mm-hmm.
It took a little while to learn, but leveled some characters up, got some better weapons, and I've now beat the first campaign twice, and I've lost the second one like 3 times. But it's fun. There's a bunch of different characters, half of which are locked at the start, and you have to do certain things to unlock them. Like, one of them is kill 100 Nazis to unlock this character. One of them is, I think, kill 10 enemies with the bleed ability, where you stab them real hard with a knife to unlock this character, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they've got challenges like that to complete. I've only played 3 hours of it so far. Like I said, it's quite fast paced, so that's how I've been able to do several little runs in that time. But it's cool. I really like the art style. It's got an interesting lighting system where apparently I think they simulate the pixel art stuff as though it were 3D to generate the lighting.
Right, so kind of...
They call it a pixel voxel hybrid system, which is why I described it that way, because voxel is just like a 3D brick, like used in Minecraft or something. And I've seen in videos of the game how they've got like lighting changing as time goes on. I haven't seen lighting change as time goes on during gameplay, but I know that one of the sliders when you start a campaign is time of day. I haven't played with that yet, but I'm sure that is how it would work. But it looks like, I think the pixel art is really top notch. The lighting is great as well.
Yeah.
And it's
With
got
uh
oh yeah, go.
with regards to the lighting system as well, like that seems kind of similar to how I mentioned a short hike handles their lighting.
Yeah, I almost brought it up when you said that because of the whole turning 3D stuff into pixel art. It's kind of a similar thing here. It sounds like, at least in terms of how they do their lighting.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool way to like approach making pixel art because for some people it totally would be easier to, do all those animations and rig them all up in 3D. And if you can use tricks to kind of evoke that same style, um, yeah, I really like that idea.
Oh,
I think it's a really interesting way to make those games feel like they've got a unique style, and without necessarily making them, feel, oh, it's a callback to like retro games, kind of like, the Shovel Knights of the world.
yeah, it's fair, but I think I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for handcrafted pixel art. I don't know.
I
um,
think I have a lot of respect for that as well. Like it will always be something that holds a special place in my heart as well. Like there is something very compelling about hand done up and animated pixel art.
and I mean, each different pixel art game looks different. Pixel art isn't just like one style. Like just looking here at my
Yeah,
Steam
of
list,
course.
I've got next to each other Starbound, Stardew Valley, Time Spinner, Pathway, and Wargroove. 5 pixel art games. I think all of which are published by Chucklefish now that I look at them.
Mhm.
But they all look distinct. Like you could take a small snapshot from one of them and show it to me, and I would hopefully be able to tell you which game it was from, just by like the color palette they pick and the way they draw characters and stuff like that. It's all quite different. With 3D converted to 2D stuff, I mean the way you can do stuff in 3D is just as varied as well. But I wonder if it might be more limited in how you can convert that into 2D looking pixel art. I kind of want to try a short hike now because it does seem really like that art style is really interesting. I like how it looks in stills. That's
Yeah,
all I've seen.
it looks really really great in motion too. Um, yeah.
So back to Pathways, one more thing I want to mention, though I haven't played with it yet. I saw it has a slightly customizable difficulty system.
Hmm.
Each time you start a new campaign, you can adjust a slider for resources. So you've got your fuel and your ammunition to manage. I've run out of fuel before, and when you have to continue on foot, your health goes down really fast as you travel, and it's basically, unless you're right at the end, that's it. It's over.
Hmm.
Um, but if you like that challenge, but the combat is annoying, you could change the enemy strength or vice versa. So I always like seeing difficulty systems that are customizable like this. So that was cool. I haven't, like I said, I haven't tried tweaking them yet because I haven't found either to be a problem. But it's always nice to see when games do that.
Rad.
But yeah, that's Pathway.
Yeah.
What's
Awesome.
your next game?
My next game is a little something called Donut County. Have you heard of this game?
I think you've mentioned it to me once before,
Okay.
but that's it. I haven't heard of it
Um.
elsewhere.
So I am in a bad habit right now of not playing any fucking narrative games at all. Period.
Is
Like I'm
Project
just
Cars not narrative driven?
oh, shockingly. I mean, you could make an argument that it's kind of emergent narrative driven. Like each race is its own narrative. Each each like career, like there is a career mode, and like that is, that's got potential for your own narratives, but it's not like any sort of explicitly defined narrative.
Okay. I
Not
think
in
you'd
the
be
same
stretching it to
way.
say each race is its own narrative, but sure.
No, it really is. Like there are so many different stories that you could tell from any one given race. Like at the most basic example, let's say like you have a really good practice session or a really good qualifying, and then something like goes horribly wrong in the race itself with your vehicle, and it causes you to like lose positions or maybe lose the race entirely. That is a story.
But it's not a narrative that's driving the game.
Like I said, it's not any sort of explicitly defined narrative. It's emergent narrative. That example that I used, for example, like that happened in real life. At the last Grand Prix, which took place in Bahrain.
Yeah.
Yeah. Charles Leclerc, a driver for the Ferrari team, had a really good like qualifying and a really good practice, and he was on pace to be um, in first and actually win his first ever race in Formula One, but it was effectively stolen from him by the fact that his vehicle started losing power, and so he lost like 3 positions or 2 positions very quickly, um, and was only saved from not getting a podium, his first Formula One podium, by the fact that a safety car had to come out in the last couple of laps after a couple of the Renault vehicles failed. So, like that's a whole story. That's a whole story right there. That's the sort of story that you get from something like Project Cars, but it's not something that is explicitly defined within the game. There is no like predetermined course of events there. Donut County has a very explicitly defined like set of events. By contrast,
Right.
um, so in an attempt to break the cycle of not playing any fucking narrative games, Donut County, I went and played that. It is a small, low poly game about gentrification.
Okay.
Yeah,
It's
it's
not a common topic for games.
nope. It is addressed metaphorically, but it is about gentrification. Um, but more importantly, or more explicitly rather, gentrification is an important thing to talk about. Let's be clear. But more explicitly, Donut County is about a game. It's about being a hole. You're a hole. You're a hole in the ground, and you drop things into the hole, and the hole becomes bigger when you put the things in it. And so your goal is just to eat everything in the level effectively with this big fucking hole.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a very very simple concept. It works super well. Um, I think the item descriptions are kind of really essential reading in it as well. They don't really contribute a lot to the narrative like something like Dark Souls does, where it has item descriptions that have like the deep lore.
Mm-hmm.
But they're written from they're written from a perspective. They have an author. And the way that they're written kind of feels like they're targeted at the person who is online on Twitter. Like there's a few items here which I'm going to quickly read their descriptions, which is Gecko, Gecko small, and Gecko big. And in sequence, their item descriptions read: imagine if your feet were sticky all day. If I had sticky feet, I'd walk on the ceiling and scream, "I'm going to get sticky feet. I'm going to do it. You can't stop me."
Was this game made for you or what?
This game was absolutely made for me, clearly. It feels like something I would read on Twitter. It feels like fucking shit posts. It's great.
I just had a look at the trailer with the sound off, and the art style is really cool.
Oh yeah, it's got a great art style.
That low poly cell shaded art style.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, those item descriptions and stuff just kind of have this like format and brevity to them that makes them feel like they work really well. It reminds me a bit of like Night in the Woods, kind of in that sense.
Yeah.
It's Night in the Woods definitely feels like it's written like you would write online. I think that is a thing that works for me. It doesn't necessarily work for everyone, but it certainly worked for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's written for this age of the internet. I think it's really nice.
Nice. So have you finished that?
Yes, it is a very short game. It took me a little under 2 hours to finish.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's out on mobile devices now as well. For folks who just want to play it on their phones,
Oh, yeah.
want to have a little something to play. It's got bite-sized levels, very light puzzle-solving elements.
I mean,
So
looking
like,
at the trailer, it looks like all you're doing is moving around on a 2D surface, essentially. So I can understand how a phone could accommodate that.
yeah, a phone is kind of a good fit for it,
Yeah.
and the format is good too. Like the actual levels, like each chunk of game takes probably 5 to 10 minutes. So if you are
Nice.
just kind of like on a bus
Mm,
for a little bit every day, like you could pretty easily, take a chunk off every day. Um, yeah, I
nice.
think I really like that game. So, because this is our final episode, I asked for some letters and stuff, and we got a really nice one from Sammy that I'd like to read here. Before we go any further, talking about these videoed games that we know and love.
Videoed games. Oh my
Videoed games.
God. Videoed games is what you do.
Yes, I do the videoed games. So, from Sammy. Hi, Jess and Mark. First, congratulations on putting together something fun and interesting for 100 episodes. I wish you both luck in whatever you're going to be focusing on after the show. I've got a couple questions before you go. How do you talk your chud friends out of their gaming culture conspiracy theories? Stuff like anti-feminist rhetoric, pushback against diversity, that kind of thing. My best tactic has been disengage and talk to these people less, but if there's any hope for these people, I feel like I have to be the one to be it. Two, do you have any favorite weirdly specific mechanics in games? I've been really into vague nav points that give you an idea of where to go without pointing them out right. It is our monkey's paw wish that people never really go away online. We're all condemned to each other in purgatory, but it's been delightful to get to know y'all in a parasocial kind of way. You're gonna do great. All the best, Sammy. So first
That's
of
really
all,
sweet.
yeah, thank you for the message.
Yeah.
Um, and the really fucking good questions before we go. It's a lot to think about.
So I remember I did have to ask you what chud meant because I don't think I'd come across that before.
Yeah, basically just asshole friends.
Yeah, I mean that was the gist I got from the context anyway, but
Yeah,
in case
exactly.
there was more that I hadn't known.
There is some, like, I'm pretty sure chud has a specific meaning, but I don't think it's particularly worth getting into.
Sure, sure.
We know it is an approximation for asshole.
Yeah.
And I don't have a really good way to talk them out of it, honestly. Like,
Yeah.
there is only so much that you can do and say to talk friends out of that sort of thing. Like, here's the thing. If they want to consider themselves, a rational, they should look at the evidence first. Like, let's use an example here. Let's say, oh, diversity doesn't make good games. Okay, but what about Apex Legends? Like, that is evidence to counter their claim. The thing about being rational is, like, you should accept new evidence as it's presented to you, and that should inform your beliefs. That's what being a rational is. That is very rational thinking. It is evidence-based thinking. Which I'm sure I could safely speak for Mark here and say that we're both fans of that.
Yeah.
If they don't accept evidence, though, there's nothing you can do. Like, that is the end goal. Like, you have to, if you want to come up with a compelling counter to them, present evidence. If they don't accept evidence, then what can you do? Nothing.
It's tough. Yeah, I think sometimes there could be. It depends on the context in which they're talking to you about this stuff. Because there's definitely a way where people will bring this up because they think the people they're bringing it up with will approve. And unfortunately, this is most likely to happen, I think, where it's in a group and you're the only person who doesn't agree.
Hmm.
But I think that's the case where disagreement might be able to have the biggest impact because they go, oh, okay, I thought everyone was going to agree, but they didn't. But like, this is a hard thing. I don't feel like I have a good answer, but really, because I don't talk to that many people about video games, and those I don't talk to about them, and those I do talk to about them are pretty cool and the stuff already. Um, yeah, so it's tough. I mean, there are good games to recommend. Like Jesse just brought up Apex Legends. There are good games that are kind of counterexamples to this stuff. So if you play games with this person and you kind of nudge them towards playing games like that, maybe that'll help a little bit in a less directly argumentative way. But like it is tough. Maybe the thing we all need to do is just tear down YouTube's recommendations algorithm.
Yep, that's the real answer here. Holy shit, it's a nightmare. There are so many pieces on this. We don't need to go too deep, but there are so many pieces on how the YouTube algorithm is just fucking busted. In terms of weirdly specific mechanics in games, by the way, um, like I'm with Sammy here. I really like vague nav points, but I also like the way that Breath of the Wild specifically handles nav points, where there are multiple like custom nav points that I can place down at any time, and I can mark locations that I haven't necessarily gone to and taken a look at, and so I can plan road trips. It's a really cool way to approach playing that game. I feel. Because I can spot. Oh, I want to go here and here, and oh, what's over here? There's this named location here that I've never really checked out, so I'm going to put a marker there. I create a path for myself in that way, and then I go explore, and I just go see what's actually there, and I have some road markers to bring me to those points. I really like that specific implementation of kind of weird, vague nav points because you don't have any sort of like specificity when you're doing those. You just kind of have to guess. I really like that.
I bounced a little bit off vague nav points as well because I really like it when games give you information in world instead of through a heads up display.
Yeah.
So, like Far Cry 2's signpost, we've brought it before, where you set a nav point, and then instead of like a big floating marker on your screen, it'll color code the signpost you see to lead you in that direction.
Yeah, that's a really cool way to do it.
Yeah. Also, stuff like in-game maps, like Far Cry 2 again has got this, but Minecraft actually, I realized has got an in-game map that it's an object you hold and you look down to look at the map while you're holding it.
Yeah,
That
physical
sort of thing's
maps
really cool.
That's a really cool way to handle navigation through the world. Like you have that.
Yeah, Red Dead came a little bit close in how it's got like the pencil drawings on the map. I really liked its journal. It was a similar kind of thing. It's your log of what happened, but it's done in an in-game way instead of through some heads-up display or menu.
Yeah.
Horizon Zero Dawn, which I'll talk about in a bit, it lets you turn off a lot of world interaction ways, but world interaction like icons and stuff. But with the focus that Aloy wears, that gives you extra information on stuff, that gives you an in-game way of, oh, you can see through walls not because of some ability you have. It's this machine is projecting this stuff onto your eye or whatever, and showing you where things are. I think that was really cool. Monster Hunter World's Scout Flies, though I think they were a little overwhelming, were at least an in-game way of helping you track monsters. In previous games, you'd see a blip on a map that was moving around, whereas now you're actually following something in world that's tracking for you. And on a sort of related thing, having enemies that show how healthy they are through any means other than a health bar is really nice. So, like, again, Monster Hunter with its limping monsters, and Horizon makes monsters limp as well as like the just damage you can see from knocking components off and stuff. BattleTech does this to an extent, but of course it also has got the health bars and stuff, but just like, if you blow a mech's arm off, you can see the arm's off. But yeah, I just really love it when games find in-world ways to communicate information instead of relying on a heads-up display. Or when they do use a heads-up display, give an in-world meaning behind it. yeah, that's really cool. I really like that as a specific mechanic thing.
Yeah. Um, on a related note to Horizon and the
Mm-hmm.
HUD and stuff, and maps, one specific thing that I like that Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey have done is when you take photos using the photo mode in that game, they
Mm-hmm.
actually get marked on the map. So you can go back and look at the photos that you've taken over the course of your play. It populates the map with very occasional photos from other players as well, so you can
Well,
like
you say
poke through.
occasional because I was just going to say when I played this game, I just remember seeing dozens and dozens of other people's photos, and like I went to this one area where sometimes they've got NPCs spawn who are women without tops on, and suddenly there's a cluster of photos that the game is showing me where everyone has taken photos of them with stupid captions. So I found that feature more annoying than anything. Though I did see a couple of photos of yours, which I appreciated, but I just wish you could make it so it doesn't show you photos from horny randos.
Please turn on the horny rando filter, Ubisoft.
Because yeah, that when you're implementing a feature like that, think about the worst things it's going to do, and if they're like that, just let people turn it off, please.
Yeah, I mean it can be turned off. Thankfully, like
Can
now,
it? Because
now
I could
uh,
not find out how to turn it off.
you can turn it off in Odyssey at least. I don't know about
Oh yeah, I
Origins.
haven't played Odyssey. I saw it in Origins.
Okay, yeah. There are filters for that in Odyssey. You
Okay,
can
good.
filter it down to like just your photos, for example.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So those are our favorite weirdly specific mechanics. You talked about Horizon.
Yeah. So obviously I've talked about this game before, but not for a while. I played it after it came out and I loved it. And I've said so many times on the show that I'm eventually going to get the DLC for it. I have done that now.
Hey.
Yeah. Only it turns out that my finished the game save is not on my PlayStation and it's in game content, so I have to play the game again before I get to the DLC. Oh no. So I've been doing that, but I love this game. Um, they did a big patch right after I finished playing it. So like they updated the photo mode, they added New Game Plus and stuff like that. It's kind of a shame, New Game Plus, but I don't have my in-game save, so I can't do that. But it's not too bad. I'm playing on hard this time, so I've found that the fights are a really good challenge for me. Like the level of challenge I like, not challenges and I'm dying all the time. And I've been surprising how it's been scratching itches that I get for a bunch of games that have come out since, like the fighting big things with good combat stuff I get from Monster Hunter. I'm getting some of that from Horizon. Um, I'm getting some of the Red Dead Redemption 2 feel with the open world traversal and hunting and stuff like that, although it's not nearly as deep as Red Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got similar kind of the robot-y sci-fi vibes as the Anthem setting. So it's this sort of amalgam of these three games where I'm scratching a lot of the itch I get for each of them through playing this, as well as all of Horizon's own stuff. So that's been really nice. And I've just been really enjoying playing as Aloy again. I'd forgotten how well written her dialogue is. I think playing it right after Anthem has made it really able to shine because Anthem doesn't have amazing dialogue and character writing, in my opinion. It's not like awful, but it's not amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I just remembered how Aloy has been written so she's supposed to be at least as smart as the person playing the game, which is so rare. Like normally I find when games want to show someone is smart, they'll make them do some technobabble stuff instead of making them genuinely insightful. But I've found a lot of her dialogue to be genuinely insightful, and it's just really nice. Yeah, makes me look forward to her interacting with people instead of other games where it feels flatter, I guess. I don't know. It's really nice. But the main change they've made, which I've very much enjoyed, is when I was first playing through, you could customize some aspects of the HUD, but you could never turn off the indicators that would show you where plants you can harvest are. So even when you can't pick them up, there'd still be a marker on screen, and it'll be red if you can't pick them up, and you couldn't turn that off. Now you can make it so that those markers only show when you've used the focus, which is
Okay, yeah, that's a good
brilliant.
quality of life change.
Yeah. So they've always had, if you touch the touchpad, all your HUD comes back. So if you're like, what's my life again? And it's not showing, you can touch the touchpad and it comes back. So that's,
Right.
literally at my fingertips. But hey, Gizmo. But the ability to link the plant markers to the focus has just been a really nice compromise. So
Right, yeah.
it's gotten rid of pretty much. Oh no, there was one other thing, one other tweak they've made that I like, which is turning off headgear, because
Oh, okay,
the
yeah.
the heavy versions of the armors had sometimes quite a lot of headgear, and you'd have big chunks of metal on her forehead and stuff. You can now disable that, so it's just not showing, which is nice.
I deeply appreciate that setting
Yeah.
in so off just like Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey both have toggles for headgear.
Hmm.
Um oh my god, it's just a blessing. Especially if you want, you can also just turn off the headgear in that photo mode. Like that is a nice feature that is
Hmm.
buried in there. It's just like, oh, I normally like my headgear on, but for this photo, I think it's better off. And you can just press a button; it flicks off.
Nice.
Um, yeah, headgear toggle is good. The ability to change the appearance of your gear, kind of Diablo style, just like, oh yeah, I want my current thing to look like this legendary I found ages ago.
Hmm.
I would love that. Yes, absolutely.
It's been interesting playing Starbound again, actually, with that. You've got cosmetic slots for all your items, but there's no easy way to hide them. And
Right,
since
yeah.
for progression you have to wear this huge backpack thing that for environmental protection, so you can go to a super hot planet without burning up immediately.
Yeah.
So you basically, if you don't want to show that, you have to have a cosmetic backpack item, because there's no way of just hiding it that I'm aware of. So for ages I was running around with a tail, just because it was the least intrusive one I could find. So that's it's nice when they can be toggled off entirely.
Yes. Strong agree.
Yeah. But yeah, Horizon's been great. I haven't progressed hugely far through the game yet. I haven't played it in probably a bit over a week now, but I'm going to get back into it once I've done the shit I need to get done this week, basically.
Awesome.
So you mentioned photo modes a couple of times. Do you want to talk about that video you did?
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that's worth highlighting, because I watched it and it was really good. And I've been thinking about it when I played Horizon and when I played Starbound and stuff.
So a couple of years ago, I wrote a piece. I wrote an essay that I published on Medium, and it was talking about how photo modes change how we play games, and talking about oh hey, when we go into photo modes, and we play games that are focused on violence first, which is the vast majority of video games. We tend to produce images that are, they focus on violence in some way, shape, or form. And so this was an essay about that, and yeah, it's up on my YouTube. Same username as I use everywhere, TealQT. It's about 15 minutes roughly to watch all of it. And so if you can spare a little time to go watch that, I worked really hard on it and would really appreciate you doing that.
Like I said, I had to watch it. It was really good, so it's definitely worth watching. It's been interesting after watching it and thinking about how I looked at the updated photo mode of Horizon. I was expecting all the new poses and stuff to be combat oriented, like here's her with a bow drawn, but it's not.
Yeah.
And that's really interesting. I've been waiting for when I next play it to look for more photo opportunities in that game.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you make.
Well, I hope I make some cool stuff. I've been doing more building stuff in Starbound, but I think inevitably a game like that is always going to be less visually impressive than something like Horizon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was cool. But that's Horizon. That's where I've got what I've been up to on that. You had one more game?
I do have one more game. Um, Remember how I mentioned Formula One like a whole
Mm-hmm.
bunch? Remember how I did that?
Mm-hmm.
Surprise! It's Formula One 2016.
Does
Um,
I should ask real quick. Does that mean it's a game that was released in 2016?
yes, and
Okay.
it covers the 2016 Formula One season. Um, and all of the associated teams and rules and such there. So it's a few years out of date as we are now in the 2019 season of Formula One. Um, wow, racing games, huh?
Turns out you like
Um,
them.
Turns out I really like them, and I mentioned earlier when we were talking about Project Cars, I mentioned that Netflix documentary series, Formula One: Drive to Survive. Um, which had me thinking about Formula One, and then had me thinking about, oh wait, I actually have a whole shitload of Formula One games that I picked up from a Humble Bundle at some point.
Ah.
Um, so there we go. I picked the most recent one that I owned and kind of went from there. Um, it's really interesting playing that game because it feels so much different from Project Cars, which has been my primary like PC racing game to date. I've
Mm-hmm.
done this kind of same thing that I did with the controls in Project Cars, where I have like dead zones and stuff set up. Um, and it's become clear to me that F1 is kind of more accessible than the likes of Project Cars, and also more hostile. Um, I should talk about the like hostility of it first. Formula One machines are pretty fucking precise by necessity. Rob Zachney on the Waypoint podcast described them as cool missiles, um, which are like they're by default cooler than actual missiles. um, they're really they're really precise engineered machines, um, and you know you have to be real gentle taking it up to speed. You have to be real gentle on the tires throughout the race. You need to be way more precise than you might think you need to be, because any contact with another driver, um, let's say you just bump into them a little bit from behind there,
Everyone
um,
dies.
not quite that dramatic, but like you may suffer some pretty severe damage to your front wing, which is like it's made of carbon fiber. It's
I've
like
seen them. They're made
durable.
of paper.
Yeah, they're like durable enough to stay through in a race, but you bump that a little bit, and you're gonna throw off the aerodynamics of your vehicle. Like,
Like, don't accidentally touch it when you're getting in or out of the car because it will crumple into dust.
um,
They're so thin.
they are
Every part of
so
the car is thin except the tires.
yeah, it's ridiculous. Like they're super lightweight. Formula One vehicles are open wheel. Um, your average
Open
vehicle.
wheel?
Okay, so your average vehicle is what's called a closed wheel vehicle. You know how you have
Okay.
the well that goes over the wheel, and the wheels are actually like contained within most of the assembly of the car.
Sure.
Do
I
you
know that
need?
there's. I know that like the wheels don't stick out further than the rest of the car. Is that
Yeah,
kind of
that's
what you're
that's
referring
what
to?
that
Okay.
means basically. The
Okay.
wheels don't stick out further than the rest of the car. They are part and parcel of the vehicle. Open wheel vehicles, the wheels extend out further than the main car assembly there.
Okay. So the wheels are sticky outy. I got it.
The wheels are sticky outy. That's it. Yes. So they're super delicate as well. Like it's very easy to, if you make contact in just the wrong way, you could potentially lose one of those wheels pretty easily because the axles are like exposed. The things that are actually turning them are pretty exposed. Um, so it's all very delicate. It's hard to control. Those wheels don't have a ton of grip. So you can't like go all out and go out to full throttle right out the gate.
I was surprised looking
Um,
at the tires don't have tread, right?
they don't have treads like most vehicles do. Yeah, they're pretty smooth.
It was
The
interesting. I
weight.
remember reading when I was reading about I think it was the development of the Mars Science Laboratory. I can't remember something about a space rover.
Mhm.
Apparently, flat tires at that are really useful when you're like driving on sand or something. Because of
Mm.
course the tread on a tire is mainly for wicking away water, so you don't aquaplane, right?
Yeah.
But if you're but you want as much surface area contact as you can, so the tire has grip. So on something
And,
like sand, the treads don't help. But if you have a flat, it looks like it would be slippery, but it's made of rubber, so it's not. And apparently, it's really good on that sort of surface.
that's effectively what you've got going on here. Like you have a lot of speed in a Formula One vehicle. Like these vehicles can go upwards of 340 kilometers per hour.
I'd love to go 340 kilometers per hour in a paper box.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Um, Again, it's that precision engineering that does enable it. Like it is safe to do so.
Well, for a certain definition of safe.
Okay,
But
yes, a
sure.
certain definition of safe, but also like Formula vehicles are precisely engineered in such a way that even in crashes that look very, very dramatic and major, you can walk away from that shit. Um, there were a couple of crashes in the 2018 season where you had vehicles that like were flipped upside down. Um, Another vehicle that like completely went over the top of another one. It's nuts what these vehicles can do in if they fail in some way, shape, or form. Um, Whether that's due to driver error or vehicle error, like it can totally be unpredictable in that sense. But those vehicles, like all of those drivers, just walk away pretty much uninjured. Um, it's kind of wild to think about.
Hmm. It's certainly not
Um,
what I expected when we first started talking about it.
yeah, like if we talk about the history of Formula One and safety there, um, the last two fatalities in Formula One were decades apart. Between like Ayrton Senna, who died, I believe, in the 90s, and Jules Bianchi, who died in 2014 during a race. Those two drivers were separated by decades, and safety advancements were made immediately in response to both of those instances. And so, like, in spite of all these dramatic crashes, you don't see fatalities in Formula One. Um, lots of damage to vehicles, but no damage to drivers. Like even in terms of injury, like I said, you don't see a lot of it. It's really good that the sport is that safe, for how dangerous it seems like it should be.
Yes, no, absolutely.
Um, but yeah, like any contact with drivers, like you're looking at potential performance losses because your aerodynamics have gone awry, so you're losing speed on the straightaways, and you have to pit in to get a front, like a new front wing, or something like that. Like it's very easy to mess up the performance.
Mhm.
It's really unforgiving in that sort of sense. You can undo some mistakes if you're using flashbacks. I try not to use them as much as I can. Um, it's also super accessible to play Formula One 2016, and even more so in like 2017, 2018.
How's that?
Um, so the accessibility comes from the fact that as part of Formula One, there are practice sessions. And during those sessions, the F1 game to actually have a variety of practice programs that can help you out. So you can run a full race weekend. You've got 3 practice and qualifying sessions at their full lengths, and there are programs to help with those processes. So there is one that helps you with getting used to the course, and it gives you gates to go through and like get used to each turn and see how far you can push the speed reasonably. It gives you like a clear sense of how to go about the track. There's a program for tire management, which is the art of keeping your tire wear relatively low so you don't have to pit in as soon, because as you're wearing down those tires, you are losing grip over time. Tires that have more grip at the start when they're fresh have shorter lives, but they'll let you take turns faster when you have them. And Formula One has mandatory tires for certain events, so you need to learn to manage those different types.
This sounds so complicated.
It's really shockingly like complex and strategic and deep.
I just want to play Need for Speed.
Yeah, I know, right? You want to manage like as little as possible, but this is
like if I hit a wall, I keep going. It's fine.
This is like full on, like I want to manage like everything.
How stiff are the springs?
You can adjust that stuff.
Yep.
You can go full out and just like, oh yeah, I want to adjust my caster ankle. I want to adjust how low to the ground my ride is, or maybe I want to bring it a little bit higher.
You adjust which gloves your driver's wearing so they've got different amounts of grip on the steering wheel.
You can't quite do that. It doesn't quite go that deep, but you can do a lot of vehicle management there. There's also another program for qualifying pace, which is designed to be run after those other two. It starts you out on the softest possible tires. They've got super high. The softer tires have higher grip, and again that lower lifespan. So that qualifying pace will give you the grippiest tires, low fuel, and 5 laps, including a pit in and pit out. So you just are focused on speed and only speed. So you can get a good idea on how the car is going to feel when you are doing your qualifying session.
I forgot about fuel.
Fuel isn't really a concern in an actual like Grand Prix environment.
But this game sounds like it's the kind of thing that would care about the amount of fuel you have left in terms of how it changes the mass of your car and stuff like that.
Yes, it absolutely it does that. But when it comes to like pit stops and stuff, you are not refueling in Formula One. You have enough fuel for your entire race.
Oh, okay.
So, a Grand Prix is 50, 60 laps. So you won't have
that takes, what, like an hour or more?
Yeah, that takes like an hour and a half, roughly.
To me, obviously, it's just because this is not my kind of game. That sounds so boring, do the same thing 60 times in a row.
It's made thrilling by the presence of other drivers.
Okay.
Like, that's where the excitement comes in is, oh yeah, other drivers are on the track. You have to figure out how you are going to get up to other positions, how you are going to defend your current position.
But I can just imagine, like, so the most recent racing game I played was Star Wars Episode 1 Racer, and I can just imagine playing one of their, like, shorter 1 minute lap-ish things, but doing 50 laps. I would get so bored.
Well, keep in mind that I don't think that sort of course is as technical as a lot of Formula One courses. Let's look at a real course. How about that? Because a lot of the a lot of the appeal of racing like Formula One, as opposed to something like NASCAR. Like NASCAR is you're going around in circles.
Right.
Formula One.
Technically, you're still going around in circles in Formula One, right?
Technically, yeah. If you want to stretch that definition, yes, you are still going around in circles.
Anything that goes in a total of 360 degrees is a circle. New definition.
Yeah. Okay.
Squares are circles.
It's not a square either, though. Like
every closed loop is a circle.
Okay, I've sent you a map. So you can see all of the different, like...
It's just a circle, Jess. You've just sent me a circle.
Okay. Listen.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. I see.
Yeah, so they're, like... The strategy coming out of, looking at the map... like
I'm definitely taking
like,
that shortcut from 5 to 12.
From turn 5 to, like, turn 7, though, like... managing that is going to be different than managing turns 1, 2, 3, where you have on that first turn, you've got a really, really sharp bend around. So you have to manage that, and that's where like collisions can happen. Like the race starts coming into that turn, so you have to manage everyone else on the grid. Like, how are they positioned? You have to be careful driving around them. If you're towards the middle of the field or towards the back, you are dealing with like threats on all sides there. Trying to defend your own position and maybe gain a couple more by just squeaking out a better line than someone else in front of you.
Do these cars have guns mounted on them or anything?
This is not Blur. I would kill for a Blur too, but this is not Blur.
What is it, tortoise shells? Launchers?
Oh god, yeah. Alright. Not Mario Kart either.
Are you sure?
Yeah. Like I said, those vehicles will just like they're
Sorry,
really easy to mess up. No, they're really easy to mess up those vehicles. If you throw a turtle shell into the mix, you are going to have some problems.
Oh yeah. I just want like press a button and a whole bunch of like caltrops come out the back of my car.
I mean, you could just end up with something like this.
Would ball bearings fuck someone up?
Ball bearings? Probably.
Yeah.
Maybe not too much, but I wouldn't want to risk it.
Yeah. Well, not in real
here's
life,
a shot from this year's Grand Prix on this course, by the way.
So they're spraying sparks out to distract the drivers behind them.
Their front
the front fell off.
Yeah, their front wing fell off.
Are they driving over it?
Yes. So
cool.
That is Sebastian Vettel's vehicle there, flying up into the air after losing his front wing after taking damage a little earlier in that lap. So the rest of the assembly just completely sprang off. He pitted in shortly after that and got it replaced, and yellow flag went out while they cleaned that up. But like that shot is really something else.
Yeah, it's a lot of sparks.
It is a lot of sparks.
It's like, what's that thing that like to stop missiles locking onto you?
I know. I think it's called chaff.
Yeah,
that's what I want to say that it's called. I'm sure it has another name.
Yeah, looks like it's chaff. Remember that? The main way I remember that is because I remember the chaff grenades from Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, okay.
Like lock everything up, and there were all this metal floating in the air. Anyway, it's not a chaff launcher or whatever they're called.
No, it is not a chaff launcher, as cool as that would be. I will include a link to this photo, by the way, in the show notes for any Formula One fans or want to be fans out there. Talking about endurance in Formula One as well, like the races themselves are super long. Like you can optionally make them shorter, but you can also do like a full length race weekend. And format it kind of just
when
like
you say a full length race weekend, do you actually mean like a real life weekend?
You could turn it into a real life weekend if you wanted to. And maybe I would recommend doing so just for the experience. But a full race weekend in real life includes 2 90-minute practice sessions out on the track, and 1 60-minute practice session, and then 3 qualifying sessions. So the way that those sessions are spaced out is on Friday, you will have 2 of the 90-minute practice sessions. You'll get those big sessions out there. Generally you only have like 1 of those in close to actual race conditions. So for example, at the Bahrain course that I sent you earlier, that race takes place at night, and the course is like floodlit. So because that is the case, the only practice session where you get close to like qualifying and actual race conditions is at night. This is the second practice session. So the first session is kind of middle of the day. The track is a lot hotter than it will be during the actual event, and that can affect how the game, like how cars both in the game and real life handle. So that's the first day. Then Saturday comes around and there's another practice session. This one for 60 minutes, and then there are 3 qualifying sessions that are about 15 minutes long each. How qualifying sessions work is they only count the fastest laps. So the focus during those is just put in the fastest lap you possibly can. So remember how I mentioned earlier, oh yeah, super soft tires, low fuel, like that's the sort of conditions that you are running under qualifying. High grip, high speed, and not a lot of fuel in your vehicle, so you don't have a lot of room to push super hard or for super long. There's a limited window, so you kind of got to make your moves. It has been argued that that is the most kind of like exciting part of Formula One, almost, because the drivers will push their vehicles in ways that you can't necessarily do in the race proper. So you really get to see the potential come out there. At the end of the first 2 sessions, the 5 slowest cars are locked in their qualifying positions, and they don't partake in the next sessions. So if you were in positions 15 to 20 in qualifying 1, you would not participate in qualifying 2. And same for positions 10 to 15 in, or sorry, it would be 16 to 20 and then 10 to 15.
11 to 15.
11 to 15, yeah, sorry. So you'd be locked out of those next practice sessions, and then after the third, then the top 10 are locked. And then the next day is race day. So it really is it's just a whole thing.
Whole weekend thing.
Yeah, it's a whole weekend thing. So you could totally just, play those sessions the same way that you would if you were to watch that event in real life. I think there's a short break between each of those practice sessions and those qualifying sessions, so you could actually go off and take those breaks and do it just like you would a real event. It's kind of an interesting way to do that. You could also just play them all straight through if you wanted to, and then just do the race if you're really, really wanting to just have a marathon session. A lot of different strategies, a lot of cool stuff. I have talked a lot about motorsport here, and so I'm going to stop now before we get too crazy. What do you think of that?
There's a lot of motorsport.
A lot of motorsport, huh? Yeah. It's real complicated, huh? It's really wild.
I'm sure you've covered everything now, though.
No, I definitely
everything
haven't.
that could possibly be covered in motorsport. I am now an expert.
I have covered a lot. There is no denying that. There has been a lot of ground that I have covered in terms of the strategy of doing these sorts of events. Yeah. All right. I'm relieved. Anything else that you want to chip in?
Do hot tires taste better or worse than cold tires?
You kind of have to have your tires warm. You don't want them too hot.
How warm is warm, though? Because, is this food warm? Or, bath water warm? Or what?
I think optimal tire temperature...
body temperature warm?
No, definitely warmer than that.
Okay. And keep in mind, when you say optimal, I'm asking about taste specifically.
Yeah, I know. I want to find out what the optimal tire temperature for F1 vehicles is now.
But they don't eat them in F1. This is not a motorsport question.
I mean, the tires would probably be better hot. If you want to eat the tires, it's
No,
gonna be
I don't want to. I
no.
just want to know which way they taste better.
Okay.
Someone else can
Okay.
eat them.
Yeah, I would have to guess hot. Probably like served at 45 to 50 degrees Celsius.
Okay.
You're really gonna do it?
Okay. Good to know.
Good to know. You say as if you're going to eat the tires.
Well, no, it's more for if I ever have to
Very
serve them to
interesting,
someone
Mark
else.
Hanna. Very, very interesting. Are you sure you're not going to eat the tires, Mark Hanna?
I'm not.
Doubt. I doubt.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that's video games. Goddamn, we talked about a lot of video games, huh?
We talked them all out. They're done.
That's it. We've ended video games. Congratulations to us. We did it. Well, I guess that leaves us with one kind of question left to go. Mark, where do you go from here? Now that you're done doing this dumb show with me, what are you going to like either start or continue to do?
That's a big question.
Isn't it just?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to stop playing video games. I'm sure I'm not going to stop talking about them, even though we're not broadcasting it. I mean, my big thing lately has just been my activism stuff that I do with my transparency, justice reform, and anti-pseudoscience activism stuff. I've been working on submissions the last few weeks. I've got one more to do by the end of this week. And there's always something to do there, you know?
Yeah.
That's my big thing. And I'll write about them occasionally. I've talked about my blog a few times on the show. I'm sure I'll write about them and publish stuff on it there occasionally. But yeah, that's probably my big thing from here. I'm more excited to know about yours, though, because I know there's stuff there.
Yeah, I mean, going forward, I'm going to be working on a lot of video essays and streams and all kinds of stuff. I've started a Patreon of my own now. That is patreon.com/TIELQT. You can also go to tealqt.com and just find like everywhere I am now. I'm going to keep doing video game stuff. I'm going to keep working with HRG Esports. Yeah, that's my thing. I'm just going to, I'm pivoting to video. No, I've got some ideas for some stuff that I want to, record and talk about. I've technical videos that I want to do. So yeah, that's where I'm headed in future, is to just do more of that stuff.
It's exciting.
Yeah. I hope folks will be a part of that, because it would mean a lot. That's it, isn't it? We did it.
I kind of want to ask one more question, because I don't want to not
okay.
ask. What are you looking forward to playing in the next little while?
Oh, you know what? That's a really good question. I think I've been playing Enter the Gungeon a bit.
Okay.
On stream. I've really been enjoying that, so I'm gonna, keep doing that, I think. Dark Souls as well. Sekiro I want to check out at some point
that
soon.
does look cool.
Yeah. Because you like Souls, right?
Yeah, I've only played the first one, but I did like it. I didn't finish it. I can't remember where oh, no, I do remember where I got stuck. Fuck, yes. But no, I did like it.
Okay, yeah. I'd like to check it out properly at some point. That new Star Wars game that EA's got coming out looks cool.
I just saw that. The protagonist looks like they're 14 or something.
Yeah, I
He looks
don't know.
really weirdly young, I thought. Anyway, I just saw the trailer like right before we recorded.
Yeah, it does look like it's going to be a pretty good game, but, it's Respawn. The people who made Titanfall, which was fucking amazing. Um, no, that's and of course like motorsports, just motorsports everywhere,
You're not gonna stop
forever.
playing racing games?
No, ugh, perish the thought.
Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
How about you? How about you though? What are you going to be playing?
I mean, I'm looking forward to just seeing what Anthem does with new content, but honestly, the big thing I'm excited about playing more of is Horizon, now that I've gotten back into it.
Yeah.
Especially now that I've got the DLC, so I know there's more that I haven't done that I will get to. So that's the main thing I'm looking forward to. And I think I'm just going to keep going with Starbound a bit because I've enjoyed it again. I kind of see if I can see some stuff I haven't seen before. Because I didn't finish the story last time, I think, and there's some stuff you only unlock after that. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you for listening to this final episode of PauseCast. We really appreciate all of your support over the years. It's meant a lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. We'll be continuing to hang out and stuff, and I might get Mark onto the stream at some point, and we'll hang out again
Yeah.
on there. I think that'd be kind of a cool way to, you know, keep the gang together, as it were. But yeah, where are you going to be in future, Mark?
I mean, people can find me on Twitter at Honest Universe and my blog at honestuniverse.com. It's the easiest places to find my stuff.
Very nice. And I am at tealqt.com. That's where you can find all of my stuff. That's, again, TIELQT.com. It'll take you to Twitter. That'll take you to, everything I've got going. And that's it, really, isn't it? Thank you to Leon for letting us use the song Honey Milk Island for all of these years. It's been a really nice tune to hear every time that we start and end the show. You can find Leon's music and download some of it for free at soundcloud.com/LEYAWN. And that's it. That's the show.
That's the show.
Thank you for listening again over all of these years. Until we next speak in one way or another. Cheers.
Bye.